G'day and salutations. Today's briefing, Russian BMP-3M versus Chinese ZBD-04A, Infantry Fighting Vehicle Comparison. The role of an infantry fighting vehicle, IFV, is to carry infantry as close as possible to the enemy before they dismount, and for the vehicle to provide direct fire both while approaching the enemy and then in supporting the dismounts as they assault. To achieve this, the IFV needs the mobility to keep up with tanks speeding across the battlefield. It needs the firepower to engage other armoured vehicles, including tanks, and to engage fortified positions. Its protection must be sufficient to survive in this operational environment. Finally, the dismount element, the infantry, must be able to efficiently and as safely as possible exit the vehicle and to be in the best state to fight. This briefing will examine the strengths and weaknesses of the Russian BMP-3M and the Chinese ZBD-04A IFVs. I will look at the specifications of the standard vehicles in widespread operational service, so it will not include demonstrations, special purpose, or export derivatives. The BMP-3, which entered service in 1987, continues the Soviet/Russian approach to IFVs that began with the BMP-1 and through the BMP-2, in the form of a compact design with low profile, being well armed, with good mobility, including being amphibious, but sacrificing protection when compared to Western IFVs. The BMP-3M started being delivered in 2019 and is a minor upgrade over the original BMP-3. The vehicle being discussed in this briefing lacks the add-on armour or active protection system, the APS, featured on some of the BMP-3M prototypes. The layout of the BMP-3 is unusual. It has a driver in a central position rather than off to one side, the turret and troop compartment in the middle, and engine at the rear, unlike the vast majority of IFVs or APCs. The turret has a low profile and the vehicle is propelled in water by two water jets located under two small doors that are positioned above the engine bay. As a result of the engine being at the rear, the BMP-3 has an unusual approach for the dismount element to enter and exit the vehicle. The two small doors at the rear of the vehicle, together with two roof hatches, must be opened together. The troops then enter and exit over the engine bay. The other unusual feature of the BMP-3 are the hull-mounted machine guns, one on either side at the front. They are operated by two of the dismount element who are seated either side of the driver. Head towards the enemy with all guns blazing. So some specifications of the BMP-3M. Firepower, armed with a 100mm gun which can fire high explosive fragmentation rounds out to a maximum effective range of 4,000 metres. The gun also launches anti-tank guided missiles with a tandem warhead, with the missile's range increased from 4,000 metres on previous versions up to 5,500 metres. Mounted coaxially to the right of the 100mm gun is a 30mm cannon which fires armour-piercing discarding sabot and high explosive rounds with a range of up to 2,000 metres for ground targets and up to 4,000 metres for air targets. There is also a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. The BMP-3M's turret includes a new automatic fire control system with ballistic computer. The gunner has an integrated sight including a second generation thermal imager and laser rangefinder. The commander has a panoramic vision device which is fitted with a second generation ICT and a laser illuminator, which provides an increase of target detection range in poor visibility conditions. In terms of protection, some sources state the vehicle is protected across the frontal arc against 30mm rounds, while others state it is only against 23mm rounds. Side protection is only against 7.62mm rounds and not very good against artillery airbursts. If additional armour overlay, metal sheets of armour and ERA, is installed, the weight increases to 22 tonnes and provides protection against 12.7mm rounds at 200 metres. Now, I've not seen ERA, or for that matter APS, on any of the BMP-3Ms currently on operations. In terms of mobility, the BMP normally weighs in at 18.7 tonnes, although as mentioned it can reach 22 tonnes with additional armour. Powered by a 500 horsepower engine, or 375 kilowatts, it gives a power to weight ratio of 27 horsepower per tonne or 20 kilowatts per tonne at 18.7 tonne vehicle weight, and is amphibious. If you know of different figures from reliable sources, please let me know in the comments. The Chinese ZBD-04A, like the PLA's premier main battle tank, the ZTZ-99A, displays both Soviet/Russian and Western design philosophies. But this is only a recent development. The first true IFVs in PLA service were copies of the BMP-1, known as the ZBD-86, that China then upgraded and modified over time. Although production began in 1986 for export, the ZBD-86 only entered PLA service in 1992. This was followed quickly by the ZBD-04, a completely new vehicle, in 1997, which has a similar design philosophy to the BMP-2, albeit heavier at 20 tonnes. The heavily modified ZBD-04A entered service in around 2006 in the PLA's Heavy Combined Arms Brigades. Changes over the ZBD-04 include the removal of the trim vane, so the vehicle is no longer amphibious. Also, it is 4 tonnes heavier due to the hull being lengthened and applique armour being added. So the 04A represents a move away from Russian design philosophy in terms of protection and size. The ZBD-04A, unlike the BMP-3M, has the engine positioned at the front, as per most IFVs. The crew positioned behind the driver but in front of the turret is likely for the dismount element commander. If so, that would aid communication with the driver in determining the best location for the dismounts to debus from the vehicle. The weapons layout on the ZBD is the same as the BMP-3, with a 30mm, 100mm and 7.62mm weapons all coaxially mounted, although the sighting systems are different, with the commander's 360-degree sight together with laser warning receivers. The redesigned turret is bigger and squarer and more sloped at the front and has storage bins on the sides. The vehicle maintains the troop hatches at the rear, where 4 of the 6 dismounts seated there can fire their weapons. As the vehicle no longer has a requirement to be amphibious, the water jets are removed. Now, rather than a ramp at the rear to allow the infantry to dismount, it has a single large door for crew entry-exit, which is consistent across the PLA's IFVs and APCs, and similar to the British Warrior IFV. Some specifications of the ZBD-04A. Firepower, well, the main armament of the vehicle is a licensed version of the Russian 100mm rifle gun, capable of firing programmable airburst high explosive fragmentation and thermobaric rounds out to an effective range of 4,000 metres. It can also launch the 3 UBK-10 anti-tank guided missile, which, as well as engaging armoured vehicles and fortifications, can also engage low-flying helicopters out to 5,500 metres. The Chinese 3 UBK-10 derivative has apparently been upgraded on the ZBD-04A to have a top attack capability. Secondary armament is an indigenously developed 30mm cannon firing armour-piercing, discarding sabot and high explosive fragmentation rounds out to 2,000 metres for ground targets and 4,000 metres for air targets. It also has a 7.62mm coaxial machine gun. The fire control system includes a digital ballistic computer and a laser rangefinder and supports hunter-killer engagement and commander takeover, and has automatic target tracking. A millimetre wave fire control radar can also be mounted above the main gun to support target acquisition and missile guidance. The gunner has a second generation integrated day-night thermal sight and backup day sight, while the commander has a 360-degree independent second generation thermal sight. In terms of protection, the forward arc of the vehicle can resist 30mm armour-piercing rounds fired from a distance of 1,000 metres, while the sides of the hull can defend against 14.5mm armour-piercing rounds fired from a range of 200 metres. The bottom of the hull is strengthened to defend against attacks from anti-tank mines. Laser warning receivers are fitted, but not ERA or active protection systems. In terms of mobility, its engine generates 670 horsepower or 500 kilowatts, has a weight of 24 tonnes, giving a power-to-weight ratio of 28 horsepower per tonne or 21 kilowatts per tonne. Again, if you know of different figures from reliable sources, please let me know in the comments. So how do the two vehicles rate against each other? Well, in terms of firepower, while the weapons are essentially the same, it might be that the Chinese 100mm has a greater variety of ammunition, and the possibility that the Chinese anti-tank guided missile has a top attack capability. Then there is the fire control system on the ZBD-04A, which is superior due to the commander sight being a 360-degree rather than the BMP-3M's panoramic sight and being a second generation thermal sight. If the BMP were equipped with all the bells and whistles that we've seen demonstrated on it, it would be the equal of the ZBD. But for the majority of vehicles at least, it isn't. In terms of protection, if the better figure for the BMP is accurate in terms of frontal arc protection, then the vehicle's protection is approximately the same. The side protection, however, on both vehicles is not great, but the applique armour on the ZBD offers better protection than that found on the BMP. As I said before, there is no evidence that the BMP-3M or ZBD-04A are widely equipped with ERA or APS, although the ZBD does have laser warning receivers which may help. And mine protection appears roughly similar across the two vehicles. Also, in this briefing, I'm not covering slat or caged armour or cope cages that can also add to a vehicle's protection. So in this criterion, the ZBD is better protected. In terms of mobility, well, top speeds on road or cross country aren't all that helpful in determining battlefield mobility. I searched for reverse speeds and ground pressure ratings, but couldn't find anything reliable. So, with what we have, both have good power-to-weight ratios, but the BMP's lighter weight, likely lower ground pressure, and amphibious capability give it an edge. Finally, we must consider the infantry that are carried as the dismounted part of the overall capability. The more spacious interior and the rear door on the ZBD suggest that troops will arrive in better shape and be able to exit and enter the vehicle in a more protected way, giving this criterion to the ZBD. An important capability that I want to briefly touch on is that of informationalisation. Now, this has been an aim of the PLA since 1993 and significantly since the 2017 reforms. At an operational level, what it essentially means is battlefield information management, sensors, collection and transmission of data, turning data into actionable intelligence and expediting decision making through secure communications and utilising 5G technology and satellite communications. The PLA's ZTZ-99A is an example of such a vehicle. It is unknown if the ZBD-04A has this level of informationalisation, but it likely does, and this would be a significant capability enhancement. So it's important to note the different design requirements of the two vehicles. If a vehicle is delivering the capability that it was required of it, then it is a success. Russia wants a lighter vehicle that has amphibious capability and high firepower, giving up some protection. China wants an IFV that has a good balance across firepower, protection and mobility, with a greater focus on protection than the Soviet-Russian designs. Whether those requirements are correct or not is a separate question. And that concludes today's briefing. Thank you for watching. Happy to take suggestions for future briefings from subscribers, so please subscribe, like and share. Until next time, Vale de Cero.